So, so thanks to everybody who chose to come out today. We know you have lots of choices in this virtual world that we're living in, and we're glad you chose to be here with us today. We finish officially our month of focusing on love today. Actually, you know that's not really true because we're always being encouraged and encouraging others to remember that love is the creative power behind all of life, including ours. So I want you to think about that statement that I just made. How often do you feel like you are impelled, inspired, moved, empowered, enlivened by the creative power of love? And how often do you forget that capital T truth and feel like you're just slogging through the day? We're all human. We have our moments. But the more often we can remember that we are moved by love, our quality of life improves, and so does everyone around us. So in yesterday's daily practice, we read from Dr. Ernest Holmes' 365 Science of Mind, page 64, paragraph 1. We are surrounded by a receptive and creative medium that receives our thought and acts upon it. There's nothing harder than keeping the thought straight, and nothing else so desirable. It's not easy in our contact with the daily world to keep our thoughts so clear that we never become unpoised, that we never accept anything we do not wish to accept, and that we always control the intellect so that the emotions don't respond unless the intellect says to respond. But whenever we can do this, our destiny will be in our own hands, backed up by an immutable power. Yeah, I can hear you, right? But what about the human experience? Stuff happens, and life isn't always like we want it. So yesterday in the conversational time before we got into the morning practice, I made a throwaway comment about the full moon waking me up several times Friday night. Didn't even think about it, right? And then I read that section from Dr. Holmes, and I remembered that the moon didn't do that to me. And it cracked me up when that idea surfaced again in my mind during the meditation time. The fact the moon was full didn't wake me up, but it sure did feel like it. There's a commonly held belief that the full moon disrupts sleep patterns, and a commonly experienced belief that not only does the full moon disrupt sleep patterns, but that police stations and emergency rooms have a lot more activity on nights with full moons. Apparently, some part of me believes that because it was part of my experience this week. And that doesn't make me wrong. Don't hear that. And it doesn't make me superstitious. It just means I am affected by a commonly held belief. And it made me more aware of how commonly held beliefs are always present in our individual experience. And we get to decide in all cases if it's important enough to supersede or override those beliefs. Sometimes it doesn't matter enough. Sometimes it does. And each one of us gets to decide every time we notice that's what's going on for us. So we all know, and we've probably used this quote for inspiration that was supposedly written by Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The idea is definitely present in his writings, but the quote is nowhere to be found. Stephen Covey made it up. He ran across the idea when he was cruising the stacks at a library in Oahu when he was on sabbatical. He wrote that he had no idea what book it came from or who the author was, but the essence of that idea, the substance of that idea, was revolutionary for him and influenced a lot of his writings and the writings of many other authors since then. I'll repeat that quote because it's so real. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That's important. The idea is important, and it's enmeshed in that idea that there are commonly held beliefs, and we can align with those, or we can pick differently. So what gets in the way of us living as love all the time? Way back in March of 2018, we did a Sunday book study on Gay Hendricks' The Big Leap. Some of you were around then. The subtitle of Gay's book is Conquer Your Hidden Fear and Take Life to the Next Level. Yeah, it's fear that gets in the way sometimes. Sometimes it's just, we don't care enough. But sometimes it's fear. And so the question becomes, fear of what? I got a list, right? Fear that life won't behave the way we want it to. Fear that we might have to change something. Fear that change will happen faster than we want, or in a direction that we don't like, or that it's unfamiliar to us, or it doesn't make us comfortable. Gay mentions 4 categories of false beliefs that we can and do use to limit ourselves. He calls these hidden barriers. I've used every single one of these. So, if you find yourself looking at them going, I've done that, I've used them all. Number 1, feeling fundamentally flawed. This is the belief that there's something fundamentally wrong with me, with each of us, and there's nothing we can do about it. This is a hidden belief and it's false. This hidden belief will surface anytime you get too close to living a life you love, or having an experience you enjoy, or finding a creative expression that you want to explore. The problem is, it pushes old boundaries and old buttons and old stories about not good enough, about can't, shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. What's the workaround? Seeing the old belief for what it is. Recognizing that it is a hidden belief, like a bug in computer code, bad instructions, as Dr. Carmen said, and keep moving. Hendricks' second limiting belief. If I succeed, I will be disloyal and abandon people or situations that matter to me. Since I'm talking about the creativity of love today, how often do we dismiss our creative adventures because we think they will make someone important to us uncomfortable, or make ourselves uncomfortable when we have to stretch or grow or perhaps change? Usually what happens in this case is that we punish ourselves in some way and we stop from enjoying this good that we've claimed. What's the way out? Again, it's seeing the hidden belief, the limiting thought for what it is, and deciding to go forward anyway. Hendricks' limiting belief number 3. My success will be a big burden to me or to somebody else. This one looks like being successful will bring me unwanted attention or unwanted chores, or will mess up my life in some way. So I create situations that stop me from succeeding. I follow Robert Fulghum on Facebook. Did you know he's a best-selling author of novels in the Czech Republic? He says, his US publisher wants to limit his presence in the US to just his Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten series. I don't know that this is his story, and I can easily imagine that it could be. As much as he grumbles about not being a published fiction author in the States, part of me wonders. He really relishes his modest, mostly private life in a little town in the backwoods and the mountains of Colorado. And if he became a successful author, he might have to change the way he lives. So I'm making it up, right? I could be completely wrong, but it wouldn't be a stretch that he doesn't want his publisher to have his books translated or published in English, because he doesn't want the change that would bring to his life. Hendricks' limiting belief number 4, the crime of outshining. Those of you who took Prosperity Plus 2 may remember Mary's son, Matt, talking about his limiting belief, his worry, his concern, that he didn't want to be more famous and successful than his mom. How often do creative people, gifted and talented people here, don't shine too much, you'll make other people feel bad? Or the one that I heard when I went to college the first time, don't get so big for your britches and think you're better than us. What's the resolution? You know what it is. See it for what it is, a hidden belief, something you're willing to change, and do it anyway. So how do we see these gnarly limiting beliefs? Like we do every other thing in our life that, shows us what we believe. We intentionally and purposefully look at our life experiences and pay attention to what's happening. So what are some of the things we could see if we're limiting ourselves? I don't like this list. It's not happy making at all. Excessive worry, self-criticism, or being hypercritical about other people, self-blame, or constantly blaming other people, deflecting acknowledgement, oh, really, it was nothing, creating an argument, getting sick, or even getting hurt. We can punish ourselves in these ways, or prevent ourselves from being able to doing something more expansive that will create change, and we don't want to deal with it. Or we protect ourselves from feeling a feeling that we don't want to have by throwing up our own roadblocks. And we involve other people to help us, just like Robert Fulghum probably did with his US publisher. He didn't really want to be successful in that way. Just like I did when I stepped into this position and I had all this self-doubt and crap about whether I could actually do this or not. There's a whole lot more in this little book. So if these descriptions triggered you in a way and you want to look at it and you still have it on your bookshelf, it's only been 2.5 years, you might want to take it down and have another look. One of the old masters, Florence Scovel Shinn, wrote in the summary of her masterwork, The Game of Life and How to Play It, humans should make an art of thinking. Master thinkers are artists and are careful to paint only the divine designs on the canvas of their minds. And they paint the pictures with masterly strokes of power and decision, having perfect faith that there is no power to mar their perfection, and that they shall manifest in their lives as the ideal made real. All power is given to humanity by right thinking to bring their heaven upon their earth. And this is the goal of the game of life. The simple rules are fearless faith, non-resistance, and love. That's all. Just fearless faith, non-resistance, and love. How hard can that be? Right. How do we do that? Ernest Holmes from Living the Science of Mind, page 361, wrote, "The quickest and most effective method of getting rid of fear is to get quiet and lift up the whole thought in confidence and faith to something bigger than we are. It's like going from a cold, dark room into the sunshine and just sitting there, letting the rays of the sun penetrate the whole being with warmth and color until the darkness and the dampness are gone. So it is with the life of faith and prayer, of affirmative meditation, and of communion with that divine spirit, which is closer to us than our very breath." In this week's reading for the Roots class, Thomas Troward wrote on page 81 of his essay on the will, "If we would have life enter into us, we ourselves must enter into life, enter into the spirit of it, just as we may enter into the spirit of a book or a game to enjoy it. There can be no action at the center only. There must be a perpetual flowing out toward the circumference and back again to the center to maintain vital activity. Otherwise, collapse must ensue, either from anemia, not enough, too much going out, or congestion, holding too much in." Sounds like evidence of a limiting belief, doesn't it? So it's more than just trusting the universe and being happy, prosperous, and well. As Ernest Holmes wrote in The Science of Mind, page 33, paragraph 3, he continues in the next sentence. "We also need to learn to come under that divine government and accept the fact that nature's table is ever filled." How do we do that? How do we accept the fact that nature's table is ever filled? We need to learn to live more in faith, faith in the divine, faith in that presence in us, faith in ourselves, and faith in our fellow beings. That doesn't mean that nothing will happen we don't like. It means that everything that happens brings us a gift of awareness, and we get to wake up a little more. Nature's table is ever filled with gifts for our awakening and for our enlightenment. And when we discover something in our lives that happens or that we say that might be showing us a limiting belief, we have the opportunity to own up to it, not by shame or blame or guilt or any of that crap. Just like I did yesterday morning after I realized I had claimed the full moon affected my ability to get a good night's sleep. I said, look at that, isn't that funny? I did that. Oh well, I can change my mind. And then what? And I'm going to close with this today. From Living Without Fear on page 139, Dr. Holmes wrote, "As love alone knows love, and as that which is beauty in us responds to the beautiful around us, so the mind which sets its vision above the confusion of strife meets and aligns itself in a presence which knows no strife. It would not be normal to spend one's whole life meditating and praying. The belief in the advisability of doing this is a mistaken idea and arises from an attempt to separate ourselves from the world in which we live. Meditation should stimulate the intellect to renewed and greater action. Thus, we should swing from prayer to performance, from meditation to action, from contemplation to accomplishment, until the time comes when thought gradually leads us to a place where we have a continuous sense of that indwelling presence, that all-encompassing good, forever springing spontaneously into our experience. That's the place where the creativity of love resides. It's where we reside too, when we remember our oneness with life, with love, with peace, with joy, and with that eternal presence that desires to express goodness through us. Progress, not perfection, is our recommended goal. And as it says in one of our declarations of principles, we believe that the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Everyone gets there. I am so grateful. Live as love as you. Make corrections and adjustments as often as necessary, and keep moving in the directions of your creative dreams. Do this, bless yourself, and bless us all. Thank you. So I want to move straight into the prayer. If you heard something today that helps you live more creatively, more expansively as love, hold that in the forefront of your mind while I speak these words. Divine love lives as me, lives as each and every being. It expresses itself in joy and delight as each one steps into their fuller expression, each one steps into their whole and holy presence. And even though I will fall down and forget and get confused, I realize there's something within me that remembers the truth of who I am. And that something within me desires to express this greater good, this greater life, this greater light. And so when I notice I have tripped, I pick myself up and dust myself off, and I step ever more fully into life as love, as creative joy, as expression, as that whole and holy beingness that I know wishes to live through me and through each beloved. So I celebrate this opportunity to be. I celebrate this opportunity to remember and know and practice this great good. And I know it shows up in every single one who chooses to pay attention to their life. I feel so grateful to know this truth and to see it blossom in each and all. I celebrate each one who chooses to participate in this thing called life and enjoy the game. In delight, joy, and ease, I relax, allow, and let it be. And so it is.